Coming up today on Tekzilla, Windows Home Server Challenge Part 2. Roger's going to talk about the build. I'm going to talk about customizing Windows Home Server with add-ins. Mini monitors, they're everywhere on the internet. Are they worth your cold hard cash? And Core i7 notebooks. When will they be here? Speaking of when, I think Veronica's in love with the new Kindle. All that plus quite the stack of viewer questions on today's episode of Tekzilla. Today's show is made possible by the following sponsors: GoDaddy, Netflix, and Squarespace. I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Veronica Belmont.
Welcome to Tekzilla. We're here to tame your technology beast.
Yes, indeedly do. From iPods to HD TVs to PCs and home networks, we've got you covered. So hey, the big news on Monday of this week is that Google released a Google Mobile Sync for iPhone and Windows mobile devices.
I'm just going to say one thing, then I'm going to let it go. I can't believe you're more excited about this than the whole multiple inbox thing.
I would be excited about the multiple inbox view in Gmail if it was for multiple accounts and not just everything in one Gmail account.
That's true.
That would make more sense for me because I do have
like
very many,
Gmail accounts.
A ton of different email addresses that I'm pumping into my Gmail account, but it'd be nice to see them all separately.
Well, talk to me about the whole Exchange sync action.
Well, this is really cool. I mean, you can get your contacts and your calendar synced to your iPhone or Windows mobile device. They have a whole list of devices that it works with up on the Google site where this blog post was announced. And it doesn't do email yet. I think that's probably going to be coming in the near future. One big downside, though, is that if you have an email account already running through Microsoft Exchange on your iPhone, it's not going to work because that only works for one Exchange server on your phone. So, you know, it's kind of a downside because I have my other job's email coming through Microsoft Exchange on the phone, so whatever, you take what you can get.
You have more email accounts than anyone I know.
I have a ton of email accounts.
And you're on top of all of them, which is the really frightening part.
I try to do that actually. Right now I'm trying to stay on top of all my Google Reader stuff. That's my big mission for this week, is to try to keep everything at 0 for the G Reader. But anyway, I digress, of course. You can choose, one good thing is that you can choose between contact or calendar. So say if you just want your calendar to be syncing and to be pushing to your iPhone, you can use that.
Which is great if you don't want to sort of contaminate certain sets of contacts.
Yeah, my Google contacts are all sorts of messed up, so I just want to be able to maintain that contact list that I already have going on my computer and not have to worry about the Google syncing one. They have a whole how-to video that you can check out on the site. The main thing, though, is to make sure you back up all your contacts before you turn on the Exchange, because it's going to wipe everything. So just so you know, make sure you back up. I mean, that's kind of a general rule.
Yeah,
right?
but when it's like priceless information,
right, like all your contacts and everything like that.
I think quite like wiping out 3 years worth of hard work to groom an entire list of contacts. Let's fire up our first question on the show. Oliver needs help with a friend's laptop. He writes in, I was recently trying to fix a family friend's internet connection and discovered that the Ethernet port on her laptop broke. That is the suxer. Is there anything that can be done to replace it? Oliver.
That sucks. That's gotta hurt.
Yeah. Well, okay, so there are a bunch of options.
Tons of options. Well, not tons, but
there's
a decent amount of relatively inexpensive options.
It's not completely hopeless.
I mean, because you got the PC card slot, right? If she has that, she'll be able to get a Ethernet adapter one, maybe an extra USB one as well. PCI Express card slot, yeah.
The PC card slot, PCI Express adapters. You can get a USB NIC adapter, which you may have to buy used since they're getting rarer and rarer, but you can basically use that. You know, if you want to get hardcore, you could try repairing the port on the motherboard. That's going to work best if you can find an example of the notebook to buy the parts from. It is a nightmare to solder, plus you're also going to have to completely disassemble the notebook to get to that. Windows OS 10, though, should be good to go for any regular external adapters.
Driver issues with Linux, maybe? Maybe,
depending. If it's very new hardware, there may be drivers issues with Linux. If it's an old notebook and a relatively old adapter, it should be easy. Man,
that stinks. I can feel for you, girl, because my optical drive on my MacBook Pro went kaput this past week.
Ouch.
Kaput. I was installing iWork. and it just makes this angry, like, growling noise at me when I put the disc in, then spits it out.
Those are pretty easy to replace.
Yeah,
I mean, it still sucks because you've got to open up the notebook to get to it, but it's an actual device that you basically pull a piece of tape off, and it unplugs out of the, and undo a screw, and it unplugs out of the main board.
Why is it always something? Can it just not be something for like a week? Can everything just work well? You
know what just reminded me though?
What?
If you could actually find another notebook, you just replace the entire main board without having to try to solder an Ethernet jack onto it. That's possible.
That's another possibility. So hopefully some good suggestions that'll help you out. But it's time now to thank one of the sponsors that make Tekzilla happen, Squarespace. And here to tell you more about it is Revision 3's very own intern, Tyler.
Hey Tekzilla fans, I'm Tyler Howarth, an intern here at Revision 3, and I'm here to talk about Squarespace. I'm sure you've all heard about Squarespace's excellent WYSIWYG editor, their fancy templates, their excellent customer service, the list goes on and on. But did you know that plenty of large-scale sites use Squarespace as well? Kevin Rose, Sarah Lane, Alex Albrecht. Mark Echo even uses Squarespace to host and serve his content. That's because Squarespace is built to scale. Kevin Rose's blog has hit the front page of Dig multiple times, and Squarespace hosting holds up in the most frightening amount of traffic. Every Squarespace site, even the lowest level, is built to scale and will never go down because of surges in traffic. It helps me sleep at night knowing that my personal site will always be up and live on the interwebs just how it should be. Because Squarespace is cool and down with the Zilla, they're giving fans 10% off of the life of their membership. Just use the promo code TEKZ when you sign up for your account. So remember, for all your website needs, check out Squarespace.
It's time now for our freebie download of the week, a file that's fun, functional, or indispensable, and most importantly, it's free. This week's pick, Axcrypt. With data and identity theft so common these days, making sure your sensitive files are secured isn't just an option, it's a necessity. Enter Axcrypt. This file encryption tool uses the AES algorithm with 128-bit keys to offer a reasonable encryption with an easy-to-use interface. To encrypt a file, right-click it in Windows Explorer and select Axcrypt Encrypt. Enter your passphrase and you're set. To edit or view an encrypted file, just double-click it. To decrypt, right-click and select Axcrypt Decrypt instead. No configuration is necessary, just run the installer and Axcrypt is ready to use. Now, Axcrypt won't do folders or drives, but if you need to keep a few files secure without the hassle of running more comprehensive software, Axcrypt might be just what you need. And hey, it's free, so give it a try.
As you mentioned at the top of the show, I'm very excited about the new Kindle, the Kindle 2, that was just announced this past Monday.
You've been coveting a Kindle for a while.
Yes, I've been borrowing other people's Kindles from time to time. I actually read Anathem entirely on the Kindle, which was a great experience.
I like that thought.
So there's a new one that's coming out on February 24th. It's going to be $359, and it definitely received quite the little makeover. I mean, it's very thin. It's 0.36 inches, so it's thinner than an iPhone, which is very, it's very light. The other one was still pretty thin to start with. So
wait, I have an iPhone.
To make it even smaller, it's thinner than this, if you can even see. And it has a cool new feature called Read to Me, which uses a computerized voice built into the Kindle to actually read out loud text that's on the screen.
It's cool if it sounds like a people
and not like a Macintosh circa 1986.
That would be actually hilarious. I wonder if you could change the voices.
Born in Amherst, Mass.
You know, like with the Tom-Toms, you can give them like celebrity voices. I wonder if they could have whatever. I digress.
David Hasselhoff reading to you
That'd
at night.
That'd be hilarious. It's got 7 times more storage. It's got a sharper 16-level e-ink display that turns pages 20% faster.
I like that.
Which is very cool.
Page turning on e-ink, the page changing is the hardest thing on my eyes when it goes to black and then flashes back out to drop the sort of text on the page.
Battery life was never an issue for me, but it's a 25% longer battery life now, so you don't have to plug it in as often.
Or something like that.
Exactly, which is very cool. And it's got a 5-way joystick that improves the navigation for going around menus and that kind of thing. So definitely a lot of improvements. Sadly, it's only coming out in white and not in the pink that they showed at the press conference. That was a promotion for that Stephen King book, I'm not a huge Stephen King reader, so I'm not really sure what's going on with that book, but it's an exclusive to the Kindle, which is pretty cool. Or it's coming, maybe not exclusive to the Kindle, but it's coming pre-packaged on the Kindle.
Should we sort of pre-address these why aren't you reading ebooks on your iPhone or why aren't you reading ebooks on your notebook question?
I Twittered last week that, yeah, look at that. That's not good for reading. That's not good for your eyes.
It's not bad for reading.
I can't get into it. I tried using the ebook reader on the iPhone. I did not enjoy it. It's not the same as looking at the Kindle, which is basically like paper.
Well, also, it gives you much less than half a page.
Yeah.
Which can be really frustrating.
It's a pain in the ass. That's
especially
all
if you
I'm
read
saying.
fast.
So yeah, like I mentioned, it's coming out February 24th, and I think they're taking pre-orders already.
So fire up your ebooks questions for Ms. Belmont, because she's going to be living, breathing, and loving her new Kindle.
I kind of wish they did have the pink one though available. It's so cute. I don't usually like pink gadgets, but I could go for a pink Kindle. That might be kind of neat.
Stephen King also says that ebooks are not going to kill paper books.
What's that you got there?
All over the gadget sites and elsewhere around the web, actually, this kind of thing started, Samsung of all places started doing photo frames with DisplayLink technology that actually turned them into a little additional monitor. So this is the NanoVision MiMo UM710, and like I said, little tiny monitors are popping up all over the internet. And this is what one looks like in action. Plugged in into an OS X, works with Vista, works with XP. This one actually is a little 800 by 400 monitor for about 130 bucks. And the idea is that you're going to add in extra display. It doesn't require DVI, doesn't require VGA, because it runs off DisplayLink, which essentially is a driver that allows you to drive monitors over your USB connection. And what's kind of fascinating about this one is it actually powers this little 7-inch monitor off your, basically you're going to need 2 USB ports.
You need to suck up 2 USB ports, huh?
But it will power it off of a pair of USB ports.
I see you've got TweetDeck running in your little external monitor here.
I've got TweetDeck. It's interesting, like, you know, I almost wish the price was a little farther down, because I've been working with people, I mean, literally since the early 90s, who were using dual monitors for Photoshop and for video editing and all sorts of other stuff. But if you want to keep a single application, it's a really interesting idea. The 740, which is going to be like 200 bucks, adds in a complete touch screen and a net cam and a microphone, which is really interesting. You know what
it kind of reminds me of? A super advanced Chumby. Even though people don't use Chumbies as external displays, I mean, they're all based off of widgets that are developed for the Chumby. But I could see someone developing widgets specifically for a small device like this that you could use.
Well, it's funny. It's a big enough screens. Like if you wanted to run Flickr up here, if you wanted, you know, if your TweetDeck, Skype, various other software works there. If something that you constantly consult but you don't want it living in the middle of your main desktop, I think it also has potential. And I'm going to play around with it, using it for navigation software. We talked about putting a PC in a truck last week for racing. Something like this actually could be, you know, because a lot of people send in links, and I love that you did that, but you can't use a composite input, a television input from a computer to a monitor and have it not look like TAS. It's going to look horrible. Your computery stuff is going to look awful on a monitor that is set up to translate television. So VGA or DVI inputs on monitors, or in this case a DisplayLink, I think has a lot of potential.
Now, how much did you say this was running for again?
This one's listing right now. Basically, it's showing up for about 130. Prices should drop a little bit. The touchscreen version is showing up for 200, which has a lot of potential. Actually, the touchscreen version actually could be really great to set on top of a home theater box to use as a controller for stuff.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And it can also operate vertically along with horizontally.
Excellent. Well, I think I wouldn't mind having one of these sitting on my desk, just kind of popping up notifications like this from time to time.
It's kind of fun. I just got used to, you know, dragging my mouse over here, answering people, responding to stuff. It's exciting.
Very cool.
You know what else is exciting?
What?
The Netflix sponsored movie pick of the week.
This week it's Titan AE. This underrated animated adventure revolves around Kale and his search for the legendary Titan, a spacecraft his father built imbued with the technology to recreate life itself, as mankind's last hope for survival following the destruction of Earth and the hands of a malevolent race of energy beings, the Dredge. Featuring a star-studded voice cast including Matt Damon, Drew Barrymore, Bill Pullman, and many more, this action-packed movie is filled with excitement, thrills, and deft writing. Titan AE is sure to be a hit with sci-fi and animation fans alike, so put it in your queue today. Or check out one of the other 90,000 titles available online, including tons of Blu-ray titles with free shipping both ways to your home. They have over 40 shipping centers, so almost all deliveries happen in just one business day. The Netflix plans start from $4.99, and as a new member, you can get a no-risk 2-week free trial membership. Check it out at www.netflix.com/Tekzilla. Remember to type in those dubs. Welcome to another edition of websites we just can't get enough of, a website that we just can't stay away from because it's too useful, too funny, or just too darn irresistible. This week's pick, dingitsup.com. This is definitely one of those sites that doesn't do much, but it does its one job well. Ding It's Up will tell you, either by text message, email, or Twitter, that the website of your choosing has either gone down or alternately popped back up again. Let's say, for example, that you're a total Twitter addict. Ahem. Sometimes during periods of heightened activity, as we all know, Twitter has a tendency to go down for a little while. Well, instead of hitting refresh over and over, waiting for it to spawn back into existence, you can simply tell Ding It's Up to drop you a line as soon as the website is back. No wasted time. It's also great if you own your own website. If something suddenly goes wrong and your site is down, wouldn't you want to be the first to know? And if you're tired of getting notified every time a site goes down or up, you can unsubscribe whenever you're ready. Head over to dingitsup.com and never be the last to know again.
It's time for the Windows Home Server Challenge, brought to you by the HP Media Smart Server, powered by Microsoft Windows Home Server. That's a mouthful, people. Here to help us out, Mr. Roger Chang. Last week we covered HP's Media Smart Home Server. This week we're going to talk about our DIY home server boxing and some of the things you can do with add-ins to actually basically to add stuff to the Windows Home Server operating system.
Boxin?
Boxin.
Is that German?
And I think it's nerdin.
Ah,
nerdish.
So anyways, we figured we'd try to build a comparable machine to the HP product. And that basically meant going to the computer store and spending some money.
Buying parts.
Buying parts. I spent $661 in total.
So we were kind of trying to see if we could boost performance over the Windows Home Server, so the HP Media Smart Server. So you threw a considerably faster processor at it.
Yes, I picked up a Intel Core 2 Duo E7400. It's a 2.8 gigahertz chip with a 3 megabyte cache. It was a little overkill. I actually wanted the one that was only 2.4, but that was all they had left in the store. So I had to go with that.
I had to get the faster
I had
one.
to get that one. For the motherboard, I went with an Intel DG45FC. It's one of those mini ATX all-in-one boards. Right. It has the new X4500 HD graphics, so it has HDMI out, it has DVI out.
So it could also be a nice
home theater PC. Box. It's one of those things where I figured, you know, it's might as well try to squeeze a little more functionality.
How much can we build into a single machine?
Features a 1 gigabit Ethernet port, 4 SATA ports internally, so you can add one optical drive and up to 3 hard drives. Has one eSATA port, which is very important because I wanted the ability to, like, hey, if I want to add an external drive, I can just plug it straight in the back, no FireWire, no USB. We gave it 2 gigabytes of Corsair RAM, one Western Digital green, 1 terabyte hard drive, a Sony NEC DVD burner was like 25 bucks. Right. Used a Silverstone Mini ATX LAN case. I actually wanted to go with something smaller, and then I thought about it, and I wanted a larger enclosure because I could add more drives internally. Now, if I went with a smaller case, I went with one of those HTPC cases, the ones that look like a drive case.
It's quiet.
Couldn't fit more than one drive,
right.
and I had to use a slot loader for the optical drive. And finally, you just mentioned the quiet. It's a 500-watt modular power supply from Seasonic. It's an M12. And I spent a little money. I spent like 120 bucks on it. And the reason I spent that much on a power supply, even though I could have gone with a $40 power supply, is because it's quiet, it's reliable, and it provides the critical amount of power, which I think is crucial in any PC build.
It provides clean power, which is more, clean power is critical for your data to survive. Basically, a bazillion random errors in computers are attributed to a lot of things when in reality it's just a bad, cheesy power supply. Now, because I wanted to see exactly how little power I could consume with a full-time server, we also picked up an eBox with an Atom processor. That could run us back about 320 bucks, 160 gigabyte internal hard drive, gigabyte of RAM. Nice, simple little machine. The only downside is we're going to have to be running outboard storage. We'll talk that when we talk about performance next week. How'd the installation go?
So the installation went pretty simply. Pretty much a one-click affair. You drop the disk in, it boots up from it, you follow the on-screen directions, and it's basically you sit back until it's done installing. Now, once you are finished installing, you essentially have to walk through a bunch of your network settings with Windows Home Server, but they're really not complicated. As long as you're familiar with your IP or your subnet, you know.
Your home router.
Your home router, you're pretty much halfway there. You actually need to use a really secure password because it will not let you go through the install without one. You can't use your name, you can't use a dictionary word. You have to mix it with uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and characters like £sign or an @
Probably just want to write it down and stick it to the server.
Once you figure it out, it's not too hard, but it took me almost 2 minutes to come up with something that I could remember off the top of my head and still be secure.
Did you have to give it a static IP on your home network with your home router? Did you have to punch out any holes in the router
Well, my home router, I configured a certain way to block a bunch of ports that were giving me trouble about 3 years ago, and I really haven't changed it since. So I had to free some of those up because one of the ports that Windows Home Server uses for a connection from a remote PC is 55,000, and I blocked that entire upper tier range because I wasn't using them. So I unblocked that. I also needed to insert the hard IP of where Windows Home Server was on my network into the Windows host file of my client machine at home. Right. I did not have to do it with my laptop, but my home PC that runs Vista, I had to because it would not resolve the IP any other way.
So you did assign a static IP to the Windows Home Server?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
And once I did, it was pretty easy. Now, one of the things you'll notice is that you can access Windows Home Server either directly through the Windows Server console, or you can do it through the network. So this is the Windows Home Server console. This is the PC I have at home. Actually, this is the one PC I have at home. This is the one I have here. And you can access it through the network. So I have it right here, and if I wanted to, I could actually click on it. It would show up as a website. And this is kind of the web interface that you would get if this is the first time you accessed it. Third way you can access the Windows Home Server is through the network, and as you can see, they basically show up as network shared folders. Cool. So I can double click in videos and I have a bunch of files in there already. Interestingly enough, this is how, for example, the Xbox 360 or another network device would access Windows Home Server, and then I would be able to play those files directly off the server.
Nice. Now, what about Windows Media Player or iTunes or something like that?
So Windows Media Player that I used more than iTunes is all I had to do was double click onto the tech server drive, Windows Media Connect, and uses the latest. You need the latest version of Windows Media Player to enable this, and it essentially shows up automatically. So right now I only have audio files. I don't have any video files
in that folder.
But I can play it directly off it. Just double click right here. It's ATB, what do you want? And interestingly enough, again, all these files are again accessible by any other network device, my Xbox 360 being the primary case at home.
So add-ins are essentially software. They're kind of like the Media Center extender. They extend the functionality, they add features, they run additional software. For example, Diskkeeper has an add-in for disk defragmentation. There are security suite add-ins that allow you to help keep your devices secure. There's stuff that extends the remote access capabilities. There's options for updates. If you go to forum.wegotserved.com, have you seen this one?
Yes.
It's crazy.
Now, the add-ins I'm keen on are the RSS ones, the ones that let you essentially update podcasts, video podcasts, audio podcasts directly into the home server. So in effect, it's doing it in the background. You come home after work with your Windows Home Server up and running, and you can access it through your, either on a connected PC or a set-top device, and it's brilliant. I mean, it's just no-brainer. It's like having a newspaper in the morning in your front door. It's awesome.
We're going to put a link up on the website. Basically, we're going to put a list with links to our favorite add-ins up on the website. One more great resource, mswsh.com. That's the Microsoft Windows Home Server blog. They were kind enough to link to Tekzilla last week. Thanks. We want to tell you guys that there's tons of great info for Windows Home Server users on that site. Now, we're still gathering your questions about Windows Home Server. Keep firing them in to Tekzilla@revision3.com, and we'll get them all answered in next week's episode. Coming up next, you had a lot of ideas for Veronica's Linux 101 segment we did a couple weeks ago, so we're going to get to that right after we take care of one of our sponsors, GoDaddy.com, ladies and gentlemen, starting at less than $5 a month. Web hosting from GoDaddy.com includes 99.9% uptime, 24/7 support, and free access to the GoDaddy hosting connection, the place to quickly install over 50 free applications like WordPress, Joomla, Drupal, OS Commerce, and quite a few more. Get reliable, secure hosting without a long-term contract. That means if you don't have the money later, you don't have to pay it because you aren't committed. And they've got free 24/7 support to go along with that no annual commitment, so they will keep you up and running. You want to score a discount? Times is tough, so enter in code TEK5, that's TEK5 when you check out. You'll help us. More importantly, you'll save an additional $10 off any order of $40 or more. Some restrictions do apply. See the site for details. Do us a favor, get your piece of the internet at GoDaddy.com and help Tekzilla out in the process by using that TEK5 code when you do.
True to form, you guys had the best responses for Robert's Linux question from the other week. Being a Linux noob myself, I appreciate the input from the audience as usual. Here are some of the top picks from you guys. Wubi was above and beyond the top pick from everyone. It blows WinLinux right out of the water. It's an installer for Ubuntu for Windows. Plus, it's super simple, and according to the website, there's no need to burn a CD. You just run the installer, enter a password for the new account, and click install. Go grab a coffee, and when you're back, Ubuntu will be ready and waiting for you. And then another one was Unetbootin, or Unetbootin. That's probably the correct pronunciation.
What's it do?
What's it do? Well, it allows you to create a bootable live USB drive for a variety of different distros. Super easy. You don't need to burn a live CD either. You can do it in a multiple of different ways. It supports a lot of different distros out of the box.
Cool.
Or if you have your own ISO from something you've downloaded in the past, you can just use that instead.
So sort of a Linux drive on your machine.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
think that would be an appropriate way to describe it. PuppyLinux, which I just love because it's called PuppyLinux. It's very lightweight, live bootable from USB or disk, and you can run entirely on RAM. So that's a nice one. It doesn't hog up as much stuff. It's pretty lightweight.
Linux.
Exactly. And then Mint Linux is probably the #2 most suggested distro. It's super popular, it has built-in media codecs, and it's completely compatible with all the Ubuntu repositories. So any of the software you like to run on Ubuntu works perfectly well in Mint Linux as well.
Cool.
Yeah, that one's a nice one, and it's frequently updated. So they say they're definitely on top of their game in terms of making corrections and fixing things.
I like that thought.
You guys are so smart. So thanks again to all of you who sent in suggestions and recommendations for Robert and for me as well, because I definitely took those to heart.
And you're going to run them all on your HP Mini.
Oh yeah, I never really filled you guys in on what's going on with that. I won't keep you too long. We'll get to that next week.
One last question. Riyadh wrote in, do you happen to know when Intel's Core i7 platform is going to go mobile? I noticed that all the laptops I'm looking at are still Core 2 Duo based. Well, here's the thing. If you need a notebook now, you're going Core 2 Duo. If you don't mind waiting, you're waiting until, well, late 2009. There are no Core i7 processors. That's Clarksfield. None of them have been announced. Roadmap puts them at late 2009, early 2010. They're supposed to release it with a future notebook platform codenamed Calpella. Like previous Intel mobile platforms, it promises to be half marketing and half tech, and all designed to sell more Intel silicon. The big changes that you care about beyond the Core i7 stuff like memory controller on the die, the death of the front side bus die, front side bus die. Well, better power management and moving to the 32 nanometer process, which means more power, processor power for less energy, and it's supposed to be 2x DDR3 instead of 3x DDR3, which means you'll still have dual banks of memory instead of triple banks of memory.
Hot stuff.
Actually cool. 32 nanometer cooler.
Oh,
more
touche.
efficient.
Touche.
Yeah.
Very nice. For all of you watching, we live on your questions, comments, suggestions. Send them all in to Tekzilla at revision3.com. And if you want to get your 15 seconds of video fame, send us in a video question. All you need to do is record yourself asking a question no longer than 15 seconds, upload the video to YouTube, and email us the link with the video question in the subject line, and no attachments.
However, speaking of attachments, you should, if you haven't, check out Veronica's new custom tea blend at adagio.com/Tekzilla, Veronica's Berry Zinger. Adagio also has teapots, teaware, and other unique loose leaf teas, a tin of Veronica's Berry Zinger, and Ingenuity, that's a tough one to say.
Ingenuity.
Would make a great gift for the, well, Valentine's Day holiday, because what woman doesn't like a gift with another woman's face on it?
We also want to give you guys a heads up on the new features we've added to our Flash player, Share and Embed.
Now, what's really cool about this, all you have to do is click Share. The Flash player is going to have a whole bunch of buttons pop up. What you care about is the slider on the bottom, because now you can take your favorite part of one of our long shows and send it to a friend. And the Embed button, well, duh, it allows you to actually embed it inside your website, your blog, wherever you want to go. Short clip, the entire clip. It's so easy. Check out the Flash player features, Embed and Share. We're sure you're going to be impressed. It's so cool.
That's super handy.
Actually, it's way handy.
Yeah, I'm going to use that all the time, actually. In fact, well, I'm going to make a blog post about it, I think.
I like that thought. We're also conducting a survey to get some additional information about our beloved viewers. That would be you. It is for our marketing department, but we would love your feedback because that helps them sell stuff to you so we can help keep this. Trust us.
So
Just do us a favor. Yeah, if you want to keep seeing Tekzilla, do us a favor. Take the survey at revision3.com/Tekzilla survey. For those of you who complete the survey, you're going to be treated to a sneak peek at a new show we've been working on. Thank you so much for helping us out. And hey, you know what? That's it for today's show. I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Veronica Belmont.
Until next week, you've been watching
Tekzilla.
It's time for the win. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Are you looking up?
I'm looking at the camera.
Are you present? You're not going to be like doing that looking up thing and. Oh Kindle, oh Kindle, oh Kindle. How do you say that?
Ingenuity, efficiency, ingenuity.
In three.
Ingenuity! Don't touch me. Don't touch my nose. Stop it. Stop poking my nose. Stop it. Haha. Can't poke my nose in. I'm over here now. Yeah, I'm over here now, Patrick. No, not real me. Oh,